We all know about the ultimate weapon, the one that was built by AZ to revive his Floette and that he fired in order to end the Kalos War 3000 years ago. But there's something strange about that weapon, especially when we look at other references to the Pokemon world 3000 years ago. It feels like it just doesn't belong there, or at least it feels like it doesn't belong then. Today we talk about how AZ might have managed to build such a thing. So hey, I'm not so a strainer, and will the events of Pokémon Legends Z-A be the ones responsible for the ultimate weapon? Let's get into it. During our X and Y playthrough, we come across an area that hides a few important details that most of us never really find, or if we do, we don't really pay any attention to them. I'm talking about Lysander Labs, the area we gain access through Lysander Cafe and that lies beneath the city of Lumios that we will explore in Pokémon Legends Z-A. It is here, more specifically in the library room, that we find a whole bunch of books on Kalosian history. It isn't known who the author is, but I do believe they will be very important soon, but the most interesting part of all is what the author tells us about AZ. If you check the red shelves, you'll find the following text. The king's name was AZ, and he was both the beginning and the end. He used technology unlike any seen during that era to unite Kalos for the first time. The king was proud of the technology he had used to bring Kalos prosperity, but he couldn't help but to use it in a way that had never been intended. AZ, the man who was king, disappeared. When AZ, the man who was king, vanished, he took the key to the ultimate weapon. That is the item required to activate the weapon. It is known that AZ did use that technology in a way that he shouldn't, and that he did have the key since Lysander had to take it from him in order to activate the weapon himself. But they never really told us that that technology shouldn't really exist at the time, that it was unlike anything seen at the time, but we always saw that. We always looked at the weapon and saw, yeah, this doesn't fit 3000 years ago. Things will start getting crazy with my theory now, so please let me know in the comments how you would explain this. Now let's carry on. The best comparison we can make is with the Darkest Day in Galar. Just like the Kalos War, it happened 3000 years ago, and we've seen tapestry that represents the events of that terrible catastrophe. Looking at them, it's easy to see that technology wasn't yet at that point. We're talking swords and shields and not huge cannons that can fire energy beams that reach outer space. But that's what AZ was doing right there pretty close to Galar. In fact, if we look at Hisui, which very likely happened a lot closer to our time than the Kalos War, well, it feels like they still wouldn't be capable of building something like that. So the question becomes, how was he able to do that? How did that technology was able to be developed in Kalos 3000 years ago? The energy was always there, the meteor showers that plagued the Pokemon world way back in the day were full of natural energy, of life energy. But to be able to use it like that, that's knowledge that no one should have at that time. Could it be something like what we saw in Pokémon Legends Arceus? When Arceus sends us back in time, he decides to send another thing with us, and that is our phone, which becomes the Arc phone through his power. That thing shouldn't exist in Hisui, but it does. Still, there's a big issue here, and that's because I feel like time travel won't be involved in this game. Legends Arceus was focused on space and time, just like the legendaries from Sinnoh, but this one likely will be related to life and death, just like the legendaries from Kalos. This would make the possibility of us being a time travel a lot less likely. Still, life and death are connected and they are a cycle, and a cycle can be broken or at least messed up with if evil Talonzernians aren't keeping things, well, balanced. So, follow me now as things get a little bit crazy. The first thing that came to my mind was how in Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, the Phantom Memory seems to give Heath knowledge that he couldn't have. Considering what we found out later in the DLC through the Crystal Pool cutscene, that knowledge could have come from a different point in a different timeline, including from the future, like from the professors or from Briar for example, or considering it was his handwriting, it could be from a different version of himself. This is important. So it could be that something like this has happened with AZ as well. Someone from a different point in time gave him that information, that knowledge and that technology. But still, there's a slight problem. If something in Legends Z-A will be responsible for the creation of the ultimate weapon in the past, that means that AZ never fired it back then, and so he was never granted eternal life. It just passed away eventually. But since Mega Evolution is involved, it would mean that the weapon was fired in order to infuse the stones. So how can both these things be true? Well, as we learned in Scarlet and Violet, it is possible that various events influence each other and lead to a different outcome. We could be experiencing the exact moment that does exactly this. So how would something like that, or at least similar, happen here? Well, if there's an imbalance between life and death, maybe due to events connected to our experiences in the old Lumiose City, it's possible that Xerneas' power gave life to AZ. Waking up, AZ would probably have one single thing in mind, and that's the death of his beloved friend in the war 3000 years ago, the one we know as the Eternal Floette. But he would also realize something. He was dead, and now he is revived. Just like he wished Floette would be. And so, by exploring and trying to find out what happened, he finds out what power did that to him. And so, what does he do after that? Well, he continues exploring, looking for how energy like that is used until he finds it. Now, if only he could tell his former self how to bring his Floette to life. And that's when he hears about a book, a Scarlet or a Violet one, since prior did have elements of both in their design. And in that book, he learns that someone received a message from themselves. Yeah, we're back at the Phantom Memory. AZ travels to neighboring Paldea and into Area Zero, which goes right back to the fun theories about how both are connected, recreating the interaction Heath had, only this time it's with himself in the past. By passing that information to his past self, the events of the OG Kalos War take place and lead to us being able to use Mega Energy in Legends Z-A, completing the loop and creating the different timeline we explored in Pokémon X and Pokémon Y. Now, this is a very crazy theory, of course, and if time travel is actually involved once again in the plot of a Legends game, it becomes a lot easier, as AZ can simply send the technology and knowledge back in time, or maybe even go back in time himself. But I mean, where's the fun in that, right? And that is all I have for you today. I know this was a very crazy theory, but the question behind it is 100% a very important one. But what about you? How would you explain AZ having that technology 3000 years in the past? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, like the video if you like it, dislike if you don't, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon content, and also ring the bell so you know when the next video is out. Also, you can become a channel member or check out my merch to further support the channel. I'll be forever thankful for that. You can follow me on social media and check out one of my streams here and on Twitch. All the links are in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.